Jeff, how much, this has to be a huge thrill for you, I would think, is it? I mean, just being able to come here now.
Yeah, to get the call yesterday and to hear that news that you're coming home and coming to play for the team that you watched growing up and watched a lot of games here and be able to put on this jersey and it means a lot and it's a very special moment.
Who called you and where were you?
I was at home, and I heard from the GM of Montreal first, and then I spoke to Steve and then a few others as well. So the news when the GM of Montreal called me and told me I was traded to Detroit, it was a big relief, and also a lot of excitement going through my mind.
Did you, who was your first call, or did you send out a group text to let people know? Or
I sent a group text to my mom and my dad, and then I called my wife. She was actually on her way, or she was at Cedar Point with our oldest son, so she was away, and so I called her and filled her in on all the news.
Did you expect something to come down, or we weren't really sure what was going to happen? Or
the Montreal, the GMs and everybody there, they were, transparent about the whole process, from when it first went down to yesterday. So they kept us in the loop of what their plans were and knew that there was a possibility, but nothing's ever guaranteed until it actually happens. So to get that call was very nice, and like I said, coming home was, made it that moment extra special.
What was your dad's reaction?
So I didn't. He was actually already doing some of the broadcasting thing. So I called him, spoke to him briefly, and he was just excited. I told him I don't think it's out yet, but I wanted him to be one of the first ones to know. So it was just a short conversation, and then I haven't talked to him yet again today to really now that it's settled in, and so I haven't spoken to him too much, and now he's working again. So we'll find time and catch up, and now that things are settling in, and it's reality.
Hey Jeff, I just want to drill down on the details of your background. So I was looking up your bio this morning and your dad's. Like, you were born 4 days after he was traded to California. Like, can you take me through the timeline of like how you grew up, where you grew up? Did the family stay behind when you went there for a couple years? Like, where did you live growing up, and how did hockey become your thing?
I read the history of it as well, so I don't have many memories from then. But we did live in California for the time that he was out there,
okay.
And then he came back to Detroit. Mm-hmm. So I grew up until I was about 5 in Grosse Pointe, mm-hmm. And then we moved to Farmington Hills, where my parents still live. So I grew up there, and both my parents being from California, it was. My dad retired here, and it was, what can we put our 2 boys in that is going to keep them busy year round? So it was baseball always in the summer, mm-hmm. and my dad he knew nothing about hockey, but knew it was big in Michigan, and that was his reason behind putting us into hockey.
So, so like you're 9 or 10 or 11 when they won the Stanley Cup in 97, 98. Like, is that part of your love affair with hockey? Did you go to games at the Joe? You played Little Caesars, right? So you play there?
Yeah. So I played Little Caesars for a few years growing up. So we played there. Was always watching Red Wings games. My childhood room was Red Wings everything. So I was just hockey. It was always something I enjoyed more than baseball. It took me a while to finally tell my dad that and get away from that, but hockey was always just a little bit more, just meant a little bit more to me, and he was very supportive both sports growing up, but then when I ultimately made the decision to stop playing baseball, I mean, he was thrilled that I picked hockey and was going to continue down that road.
Jeff, the NHL's filled full of guys who had dads who played in the NHL, but your situation is unique. You know, you're the son of a professional player, but not in your sport. I mean, is that the best of both worlds? Because you could talk the psychology of sports and, you know, how much fun it is and, you know, kind of the aura of winning and those kind of things. But, you know, he wasn't getting involved in your X's and O's because that wasn't his areas of expertise. Is that kind of how it was when you were?
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it with that. I mean, it was always something that he was always at practice, always at games watching, but you know, he didn't know much about it. And so, you know, along the way, it's been nice to talk to him about, you know, what it is to be a professional, what it takes to get to that level, and then from there, it's just growing up. It was never X's and O's, and whereas baseball, that was like, okay, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, or whatever it is, was always had something to say. And I remember walking out of hockey games, he goes, "How'd you play?" I was like, "Good." He's like, "All right." And he just didn't know anything. So, you know, I liked that, you know, he could help with the mental side of things, the what it takes, but allow me to just kind of go out in the hockey world and do my own thing.
You mentioned having that conversation with your dad when you were traded. Did that include you telling him that you were going to wear his number 46?
That did not. I did not tell him. I kind of wanted to leave that part of as a surprise. So I did tell my mom. I actually showed her the post that the team put out, and she just kind of shook her head and smiled, and I was like, okay, she's not seeing it. So I had to like really point it out, and she was shocked. And then my dad was on set, and he sent me a nice note, and he said he was very honored and never saw that coming.
That's awesome. And I know it's exciting for you as someone who's from here being able to play for the Red Wings. But can you speak a little bit about your family and your 4 boys and your wife being able to stay at home here? Yeah,
I mean, it got to a point where it was becoming stressful. You know, hearing one thing and trying to plan for all situations and not knowing where you're going to be, kids in school. And, you know, so I think that was a big relief for her yesterday, getting that call, knowing that, you know, we spend our summers here. This is home. Will be home when I am done playing. And having all those things lined up where it's going to be a smooth, like stress-free transition, it just makes, you know, everything that much better.
Lastly, what were the boys' reactions?
Our almost 4-year-old, it didn't really click with them. Our 6-year-old was just had a big smile on his face when somebody showed him the post about it, and then my 8-year-old that was at Cedar Point at the time, he was very excited. So you know, I think all around everybody, all members of the family are very excited, and for various different reasons. So
Jeff, your dad's mentioned a few times that maybe by the luck of the draw of the draft, that if he wasn't drafted by Detroit, didn't reside here in Michigan, that you might not be a hockey player. Have you ever thought about it that way, how it just kind of came together? That it was almost meant to be. It's kind of a full circle moment, I would imagine, for you.
Yeah, and I think he briefly touched on that yesterday. It was, you know, like you said, he could have been drafted by the Angels and played the majority of his career in California, and then obviously hockey's come a long way there, but back when I would have been growing up there wasn't much. And you know, so I think, you know, his role and what he did with his career in the Tigers, and then ultimately deciding to, you know, liking Detroit so much that he retired here, has, you know, given me the opportunity to grow up playing hockey, playing and watching these teams here, and yeah, so it's,
Well, you said you were apprehensive to tell him, but I think most of us know him. I mean, he's such a great guy. I mean, were you ever that he would react negatively, or were you surprised? Because he was supportive virtually from day one, I would imagine.
about choosing
About hockey.
choosing. I knew in high school that hockey was going to be the sport that I wanted to pursue. I didn't know how far it was going to take me, but it was just, they were becoming too big of a conflict. And I actually went to my high school coach at the time and I said, it's come to a point where I have to make a decision. And how do I do this? And he's like, just go home and be honest with him. He's going to support you with whatever decision you make. And he was right. I went home. He did give him a call and warned him that something was coming. But, you know, he was thrilled that I had chosen what I wanted to do and wanted to make my own path, and you know, he's been supportive along the way and was supportive in that decision.
Jeff, have you had much time to talk to other Red Wings currently? Has anybody reached out to you yet, or Derek Lalone, have you talked to him?
Yeah, I have. I had a call with him yesterday. Spoke with a couple of the other coaches as well. A few of the players live in our area, so I've seen a couple. Talked to a few others, and so it was nice to hear the messages and you know, to see and talk to a few, and you know, looking forward to when more guys start filing into town and spending time getting to know each other, and you know, looking forward to getting everything started again.
This franchise has fallen on some, or hasn't made the playoffs in a few years, but do you see the potential here this season with all the additions and now yourself to really make a push?
I do. I think you see what you know, some of the younger players over the last couple of years, they're getting that experience, starting to you know, figure out what their roles are in the league, and then adding players. You know, like the Brinkett and Comfort and those kind of guys, and I think you can see the roster starting to round out, and you know, I'm excited to, like I said, get started and do what I can to help that team continue to take those steps forward.
Jeff, when you look at this defensive core, it's really veteran now. There's a group, yet it's probably led by a 22-year-old German, Moritz Seider. Can you talk about the defensive core in general? I know you and Sherratt go back, but you know, playing against these guys for the most part, except for Sherratt, and you know, about Mo as a player being only 22 and really pretty much excelling in this league.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the year he was drafted and coming down here and skating with them, and it was, I think he was 18 at the time, and just seeing the body that he had, like his frame and what he already had at that age, and then to see him step in and play as well as he did and continue to grow, I think that's you know, I think he's a very, very good player now, and I think he's, you know, is only going to continue to get better, and you know, I'm excited to play with a guy like that. And like you said, I've played with Sherratt before, but I think you know, there's a good balance on that back end between you know, everyone has different skill sets that come into play, and I think you know, that balance is you know, it's exciting to see.
Were you guys appearing in Montreal? I thought
we were for a bit of time, and then he played with Weber, and then we did play together.
Short answer. Decent chemistry there. There's at least one guy there that you played a lot with, obviously.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So where that is, we'll see. But yeah, we did play together, and you know, had a long chat with him last night as well.
How long has this possibility been on your mind, like in your playing career? I'm sure you don't allow yourself to think beyond your contract too much, but the idea of one day playing here.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it definitely has crossed my mind. It was always something that, you know, you grow up watching a team, and you always play that situation out in your mind of you wearing that jersey and being there, and then, you know, making the NHL, and you know, playing for, which is, it's an awesome experience, and it's amazing. And then, you know, you keep thinking in your head is like, okay, when is that opportunity going to come? Can it come? And, you know, for me, it was, I always thought about, okay, wanting to play one year here, maybe at the end of my career, or whatever the opportunity came. And like I said, to get that call yesterday was, you know, it was a very special moment for me.
You mentioned Montreal kept you in the loop throughout. Like, was this destination discussed prior to yesterday, like since the Carlson trade, or was it just kind of you knew something might happen?
It was. I mean, they asked. You know, there was never going to be a guarantee, but he asked, okay, what are some places that you want me to look into, and things like that. So, you know, for him to do that for me was great, and you know, Detroit was the number one spot on my list. You know, I wanna play here, and I've wanted to my whole life, and you know, I like what I see when I look at that roster, and you know, the steps that this team has made over the last couple of years. So it's an exciting moment.
I don't think you were required to report until training camp. Maybe were you just so excited to come? Was today your first day down here after? Or did you come down here last night?
No, I came down here just today. I had to meet with some of the equipment guys and get some things squared away for ordering some equipment for camp, and was able to meet quite a few the other staff members that I haven't already met over the years. So it was
What
good.
was that like, just walking around here? It's a pretty impressive facility.
It is. It's a very, very impressive facility, and you know, I was able, playing Little Caesars growing up, was able to see that arena, seeing the locker room over there at the Joe, and then to be able to walk in here it's special.
You know, being from here, what is it like when Steve gives you the call? Because what he means not only to this franchise but to this city is that, I mean, I don't know if you had a relationship with before him, but you know, to receive a call from Steve Yzerman saying you're a Red Wing, I mean, what's going through your mind when, you know, he's on the other end of the phone?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great conversation. I was, you know, he obviously welcomed me to the Red Wings, and then you know, he's asking about family and things like that. So it's you grow up seeing a guy of, you know, the success he had and what he brought to this city, but the conversation that we had was easy, asking about family, you know, living situations and all that. So you know, he's a guy that definitely cares more about more things than just things on the ice. So it was nice to have that conversation.
You kind of touched on it already, but what was the kind of limbo like just for you and your wife, the kids, the past couple of weeks of school starts in a couple of weeks, you got to get kids registered for, like, what was that limbo like just with being mom and dad for a little bit like that?
It was stressful. I mean, it was very stressful. I mean, the process of kind of when it started in Pittsburgh to ending yesterday is probably about 3 weeks. So it was a long 3 weeks trying to figure out, all right, if we're not in Pittsburgh, where are we going to be? What are we going to do? Is the family going to stay here? Am I going to go? Like, all situations went through our minds. So, like I've said, it was a big relief getting the call yesterday, knowing that I was going to be here, and it makes everything a lot easier.
Just want to confirm, was it? Sorry.
A couple years back when you were in Montreal coming out of the Canadian division, did they go up there with you during that time? Family, when you were playing in Montreal, and there was no fans and everything like that. I know some players were kind of on their own. Some people had families come up. Like, how did you guys handle that a couple years back?
A couple years, yeah. So they were there the COVID year, and then the following year when everything was the bubble, they were there. The kids started school, and then at Christmas they decided to move home and stay home for the rest of the season.
So you've had, unfortunately, a bit of that experience of going by yourself before and just kind of being from afar. And
yeah,
avoid that now.
Yeah, and that's something we discussed. We said we've done that. We've been there. we want to try to avoid doing that again at all costs.
Being a guy from Farmington Hills, I know a bit of an age gap between you and DeBrincat. How much did you know him, or know about him when he was growing up or anything like that, just from being from the area, maybe before obviously he was a fellow NHL player?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't, I mean, from the age gap, like you said, there wasn't any overlap or anything like that. So, you know, just knowing him from his days in Chicago, obviously last year in Ottawa, and, you know, looking forward to meeting him. And, yeah.
Just want to make sure, the number, your idea? The story behind that, wearing 46 was
yeah,
your idea?
Yeah, it was. And it was just, 26 was never a number that I wasn't like a childhood number that I wore all the way through. It was given to me when I went to Montreal, and I thought about switching when I went to Pittsburgh last year, and I didn't know what to switch to. And I thought, okay, let's fresh start, new number here, and I just thought it was a unique and fitting opportunity to wear 46.
Jeff, when you throw out the first pitch at a Tigers game, and I think we all know that's going to happen, will your father be the catcher?
That would be awesome, but well, I don't know. I don't know.
Jeff, when you said you talked about younger players in the league finding their role, for you when you were starting in this league, what were some of those lessons that you learned, and how can you maybe instill those in this dressing room, which has a lot of veteran guys, but also a young core that's rising quickly?
Yeah, I mean, it was a long process for me. I came into the league a little bit older, but you know, it's just that belief in yourself is the most important thing. Is you know, quieting as much noise in your brain as you can, and just believing in yourself and trusting in everything you did to get you to that point. Because once you start doubting it, then it's, you say it in your mind and then you start believing it. And you know, so there's, in a player's career, there's going to be many ups, many downs. Try to ride those ups as long as possible and try to shorten those downs to as short of a period as possible. And I think you know, I've been through many of those, and just being able to help in any way I can, share my experiences, you know, and to step up in any way I can as a leadership role for anybody is you know, something that I'm looking forward to.
Jeff, after a couple years ago, going on that run to the finals with the Canadians, I mean, how much does that kind of whet your appetite for just getting back there, and especially as you get later in your career, does the urgency kind of pick up to go on another run like that?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think everybody, that's why I think everybody in this league is playing, is that want to be there. And like you said, we were close, and it's definitely something that I want to you know, to be able to compete for again. And you know, and it was a special time, and like I said, it's something that I want to experience again, and be on the opposite end of things.
Jeff, you were a teammate of Sidney Crosby. What was it like playing with Sid, and what did you learn from him? Did he tell you anything that you could use here, now that you're in Detroit?
He didn't tell me any one specific thing. I think it was his actions and the way he conducted himself every day. You know, I thought, you know, the leader that he wasn't the most vocal guy, but he led by example. He was always trying to bring everybody together, making sure that everybody was on the same page, on the right track. And you know, for a guy that had as much success as he's had, and the experience that he's gone through, I didn't know what to expect walking in. And you know, I was very, very surprised at obviously the player that he is, but the person that he was to myself, my family, and everybody that he encounters.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.